All right, so I want you to get this image out of your head. The simple blob of jelly you probably learned about in high school. Because a cell, it's nothing like that. It's more like a bustling, microscopic city, an absolute masterpiece of organization. Today, we're going to take a tour of this incredible metropolis, and I think you'll be amazed at just how deep this organization really goes.
So let me ask you a question that kind of sounds like the start of a bad joke. What's the difference between a rock and a mouse? I mean, really think about it for a second. One is just inert. It's an inanimate collection of minerals. The other is alive. It's complex. It's dynamic. So what's the fundamental difference here?
It boils down to one word: organization. That's it. Life takes the very same basic atoms that make up a rock and arranges them into this incredibly intricate, self-sustaining system. It's all about the architecture, right? From the whole organism all the way down to its absolute tiniest parts.
And to really, truly appreciate this, we've got to go on a journey of scale. So let's zoom in way past what the naked eye can see and explore the unbelievable organized world humming away inside every single one of your cells.
All right, first up, life's basic blueprint. We're going to look at the fundamental types of cells and figure out what essential parts they all have in common.
So 0.2 millimeters. What does that even mean? Well, to put it into perspective, that's about the width of a single human hair. And it represents the absolute limit of what you or I can see with our own eyes. Most cells, they are way, way smaller than this. So to enter their world, we're going to need a microscope.
Okay, and right away we see the two major divisions of cellular life. On one side, you've got the prokaryotic cells. Think bacteria. They're a bit simpler. Their DNA just kind of floats around in a region called the nucleoid. But on the other side, you've got eukaryotic cells. That's us, that's plants, fungi, everything else. And the big difference? We keep our DNA neatly tucked away in a true nucleus. And we have this whole suite of other membrane-bound compartments, or organelles, each doing its own specialized job. It's all about compartmentalization.
But, and this is what's so cool, despite those huge differences, all life as we know it is built from the exact same fundamental toolkit. Every single cell, whether it's prokaryotic or eukaryotic, has these four things: a plasma membrane acting as a gatekeeper, that jelly-like stuff inside called cytosol, chromosomes to carry its genetic instructions, and these tiny protein factories called ribosomes.
Okay, let's dive deeper into those more complex eukaryotic cells and look at the next level of organization, the cell's internal factory. We're about to explore this really sophisticated network that's basically an internal production line and shipping service, all rolled into one.
So this network has a name. It's called the endomembrane system. And what it is a whole collection of different organelles that all work together to create, modify, and transport proteins and lipids. The key thing to get here is that they aren't just a bunch of separate rooms. No, they're a fully coordinated, dynamic team passing materials back and forth.
And this is a perfect illustration of how that team works. Check this out. It all starts with an order, right? The instructions come from the DNA in the nucleus. Then, a protein gets built on what's called the rough ER. From there, it's packaged into a transport vesicle. You can totally think of it as a little cargo bubble. This bubble then travels over to the Golgi apparatus for some final processing and packaging before it's shipped off in another vesicle to its final destination. Maybe it's getting kicked out of the cell entirely. It is a ridiculously efficient assembly line.
So if we zoom in on that first stop, the endoplasmic reticulum, or just ER for short, you'll see it actually comes in two flavors. You've got the rough ER, which is rough because it's studded with all those ribosomes, making it a protein-making powerhouse. And then you have the smooth ER, no ribosomes. It specializes in other really crucial jobs, like making lipids, detoxifying poisons in your liver cells, and storing calcium.
Okay, so we've got manufacturing and shipping covered by that assembly line. But what about power? Where does all the energy for this activity even come from? Well, to answer that, we have to take a fascinating detour way back into our deep evolutionary past.
Yeah, where did our powerhouse organelles come from? I mean, we've all heard that phrase, right? The mitochondrion is the powerhouse of the cell. But where did it actually come from? Because its origin story is, no exaggeration, one of the most incredible and important stories in all of biology.
It's a wild idea called the endosymbiont theory. And it goes like this. Billions of years ago, a primitive ancestor of our cells swallowed a smaller bacterium, but, and here's the twist, instead of digesting it, the two formed a partnership, a symbiosis. The little bacterium provided massive amounts of energy, and the big host cell provided protection and nutrients. And that single event, It might be the very reason complex life, like you and me, exists at all.
And look, this isn't just some wild guess. The evidence is absolutely overwhelming. For starters, mitochondria have a double membrane, which is exactly what you'd expect if one cell swallowed another. They have their own single circular loop of DNA, just like bacteria. Their ribosomes are more like bacterial ribosomes than ours. And, get this, they even reproduce on their own, inside our cells, dividing in half just like bacteria do. The case is pretty much closed.
So all of this leads to a pretty stunning conclusion. As the quote says, you and I are part eukaryotic and part prokaryotic. We're prokaryote powered. Think about that. We are fundamentally hybrid organisms. Each and every one of our cells contains the descendants of this ancient prokaryote. And this isn't just a cool fact, it matters immensely. A lot of devastating genetic diseases are basically problems with this ancient partnership, a breakdown in communication between the host cell and its little power plant. All right, for our final and deepest zoom in, we're going to the very heart of the cell's organization, the nucleus. We're talking DNA origami. We're moving beyond organelles to the incredible challenge of information management.
So think about this for a second. If you could take all the DNA from a single human cell and stretch it out, it would be about 2 meters long. 2 meters! So how on earth do you pack all of that into a nucleus that's just a few micrometers across? How is it not just one giant tangled mess?
Well, the answer, pretty surprisingly, comes to us from the world of physics. It turns out it's not just about mechanically winding and coiling the DNA like a rope. No, a lot of the research now suggests that much of this elegant organization isn't forced at all. It actually happens spontaneously. It's driven by the basic laws of thermodynamics.
And this is where a concept called the thermodynamic switch comes into play. Just imagine the cell changing the amount of certain binding proteins floating around in the nucleus. When those proteins hit a critical concentration, they start acting like tiny magnets, causing the long DNA strand to automatically attract or repel itself into very specific functional loops and structures. It's like a kind of self-organizing origami.
And really, this is the ultimate level of cellular organization we've seen. It's not some clunky, complex machine doing the work. It's an incredibly elegant system that just harnesses the fundamental forces of the universe to manage its own genetic library. Organization from simplicity. The most complex structures in the cell are literally shaped by some of the simplest rules in physics.
Which leaves us with a pretty big final thought to chew on. When you look at all this, from a factory-like system of membranes to an ancient bacterial partnership powering us, all the way down to DNA that folds itself based on the laws of thermodynamics, you really have to wonder, where does biology actually end, and where does physics begin?